Welcome back. This is the DAYBREAK Africa on KAFTAN TV. I am Kareen, Edet. So on our today's episode, we'll be looking at decline in education in Nigeria as crisis looms in varsities over mass exodus of lecturers. And in the studio today, we have a public affairs analyst. His name is Kehinde Emmanuel. We trust that he will do justice to today's topic. Good to have you in the studio today.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here.
Welcome on DAYBREAK Africa.
Thank you so much.
Just before we dive into the questions, I stumbled upon an article, and it said it is believed that about 50% of lecturers have resigned from various universities, while others who are yet to leave are also warming up. Factors fueling the exodus, according to investigation, include the desire for better working conditions, career fulfillment, insecurity, poor salaries, inadequate funding, non-payment of outstanding salaries of university teachers, as well as harsh economy. It is also believed that as much as 80% of the remaining workers are preparing to leave if the current situation persists. Now, this challenges so far, it's more like challenges every other sector in Nigeria is experiencing or experiencing. I'm talking about the education sector, the health sector. You know, it's more like the common challenge. So I tend to wonder, why is it more like the education sector tend to feel it hotter? Or is it more like they're just trying to express themselves as every other sector? Talking about poor salaries. Till tomorrow, you have the NEC and NLC trying to figure out minimum wage and other. We're still struggling on that. So it's not really advisable this sector just try to stay cool for a while, knowing it's actually more like a bond that is actually touching every sector, not just them. It's not just unique to them.
Actually, the challenge, or let me say the challenge that we have now, the issue of the depletion, the mass exodus. I mean, it's not only affecting education. It has even cut across other sectors. That it has even got to a point where the need to quote and unquote japa is now, if an household name, is now what most parents, that even in church, even in religious settings now, you see people talking about this thing, all right? And now, success in this day and time now is now seen from the lens of your willingness to want to japa. So once you have that consciousness that, what, I'm working on, stepping out of this country. No, you are serious. But that you say that you want to stay back, you're really unserious. So you are really unserious for you to say you want to stay back. And that is the issue and the bane. So it's not just for education sector, it's even across board. It's whether you go to health sector, whether you go to those that are working in tech, the demand for our skills is higher than before. Number two is that based on what you said earlier, insecurity is not really the issue. Because if we look at the investigation too that they carried out, insecurity will likely be the least, because people are, it's available for you to pick options, But then Abraham Maslow's theory of needs already captured the reason why we need people who are in pursuit of something better. There is a longing that I want, which is the peak is self-actualization. So everybody have that longing. But then I must say, and let me be sincere, that the last administration, I must admit to you that for me, when it comes to this education sector, health sector, was very insensitive to the demands across boards. All right, and that is why those that are even warming up, the people that are even warming up are even more than those that have gone. Let's be factual. Those that are warming up, all right. Just on Friday, I was in office and I'm like, this person has left too. I said, 2 weeks ago we were together. Well, interesting. I said last week, 2 weeks ago now, we were together doing some stuff that we were shining teeth together, smiling, and nobody knew. All right, and now we are told that he moved already. Right, and to let you know that there are certain people we are all working together. Some of my colleagues, once they get married now, they are off. So it's not because they are not even in the government sector, they are not even lecturers. But then it is now an household language that everyone needs to move out of this country. And we must still say that where is the problem coming from? And that's why what we think, we try to excuse it, but then that is when we don't fix all these things, it's going to keep happening. It's going to keep happening. People still leave.
Okay, so now, in your own opinion, is leaving the country, the best solution? Because I believe that in time past, there were challenges But I don't know if I would say, I don't know if the heat is hotter now than then, but I believe that as time spans, there will always be challenges. And now people feel that leaving the country, all right, it's more like the best option. But in your own opinion, is it the best option? Because I feel we should face our challenges and see how we can actually solve. But I think maybe persons are not thinking that way. All right. So, but in your own opinion, is it the best option as at this time?
Okay. There's nothing that's saying that you cannot even solve your problem even from diaspora.
Okay.
I mean, there's nothing saying that if you're in the UK now that you cannot still solve the problem. And that is what's in everybody's mind. Because as it stands, everyone, if funny enough, the people that are even living are in their deepest mind, they love Nigeria. All right? They want to solve the Nigerian problem. But then the demands, all right, the abnormal story of this now, the food security, safety, the safety needs is there, but then you will not be able to achieve other demands, other needs of yours if the first one is not settled. If we are still talking about the mass exodus, the mass number of children that are out of school, we are still having the issue of insecurity. We are still talking about minimum wage. All right, and Nigeria as a country, your minimum wage is likely going to be the most ridiculous in Africa. All right, and we know this is a global market. Unlike before, social media was not as this heavy. Right, so in time past, it's not that people are not living, but then it was not massive because social media was not in the play. Where now there are consultants, almost everybody who have left have become consultants, and they become preachers and evangelists on this same issue. But then, is it the best way to go? I cannot define what is best. Because what is best is now dependent on each person. Because some people will tell you and say they will leave for greener pastures, get the investment, get the money that they need, and and then come back. Some people have this idea that that place is not the place to raise family. So those that are family conscious will go, all right, get the funds, also get the funds and come back again to establish and raise their family. Or there are some that are living, because there is always this desire in every one of us that I want to have that peak of self, which is a status that we want to become. And let me say that because of our innumerous challenges that we have, it is going to be very deep. Let me give you the scenario that with myself and my colleagues that we left OAU campus together, being a graduate of OAU, all right, the same number of years that I used to stay to do it took me 4 good years. 2019, COVID-19 and everything. Whereas my fellow colleagues that we left campus together, all right, finished the masters in Turkey, started PhD in same Turkey. My colleague now, they said we finished together from Turkey. In the space of 2, 3, 4 years, I schooled my masters of 2019 to 2023. It took me 4 good years. Why she was able to attain, to start PhD and do all these things even before I was done with my own masters in OAU. All right, the COVID-19 was there that we could not, most schools could not do anything. Most schools do not have the technology to still operate their calendar even in those periods. So, and now when we are still plagued with that kind of challenge where we are still telling people to doctors reports, police reports, and before people attend them to hospitals, so we are far behind. And that is why, as I've said, people will still keep living. All right, people will still keep pursuing what is much more better. Even when it comes to even relationships, all right, there is a place where financial stability also has its place of helping partners to have the degree of love. The love finds better expression because there's a financial stability for those two partners. All right, so when you look at it, when you leave this country, when you say love in itself is expressive. Right, and you'll be able to do that, But when you are here and you are still plagued with payment of house rent, those things will sadly be something that you cannot really talk about. And now parents are even talking about it now, that for you, these two partners, okay, I hope you guys have Japa in mind, all right, before you say yes, so you're telling your daughter, I hope the person is considering it. So now it has left the shores of education that spread into families.
Now, there's been an approved implementation of 35% and 23% increments of salary for staff of tertiary institution. Now, one could only hope, would these improvements help to dissuade people from considering this alternative?
The increase is one of many things that should be done. Funding, TESFON has been trying, but there's a need for funding. And the challenge is research funding. It's not just the increase that the increase of salary, if you increase salary and inflation comes again, it's back to square one again, right? So we must make education fascinating. We must make it interesting. We must make the labor of these people, we must make them see reason why they should, stay. You can. How do you want to convince someone to stay when the environment is not even there? If you increase salary, then what's that? I hope you know that there are other countries that pay much more than that. Okay, so to what end is the increase? 35, all right, and to me, that's just one out of many that should be done. That cannot reduce the number. It will not even reduce the number. I mean, I know it's not what we like to hear.
But for a start, don't you think this is actually moving us towards the right direction? And secondly, is this percentage increment exactly visible? Do you see realistic, 35 and 23% increment?
A part of me, I feel like that is realistic and it's something that they can do. But then, the labor is already placing a demand. They are looking at maybe 200,000, even though that's what they shoot for. But then you should know that when you shoot for the stars, just in case your arrow missed the star, they hope that it should land on the moon. And when they go to land on the moon, the people that you are engaging with is the federal government are so very smart people, all right? They are, my mind is telling me, all right, that if somebody say 35 now, if there's going to be any difference when the new minimum wage comes out, it might likely not be too much. If there's anything could even add to that same amount, but likely maybe 20,000 on top of me. That's my own view now. I'm not sure that the federal government can talk about over 100,000. I do not really think so. But then I'll be surprised too if they do something like that. But if that is done, right? If that is done, then one of the things that the government is trying to do also is to check mate inflation on another hand. So trying to say what will increase, then you are trying to ensure that inflation do not also affect the same amount of money. Because when you increase salary for everybody, what of the private sector? What of the lawyers, those that are self-employed in their own? If care is not taken, everybody will just increase what they offer, their services, and then we have a very high rate of inflation.
Now, people tend to talk about research fundings a lot lately, and I tend to wonder, the issue of research funding, is it that the government don't actually give in that resources for research, or probably the resources they tend to pump in is quite limited? What exactly is the issue? Or is it more like research so far has not been exactly yielding fruit, so the government would just want to just step back a little, since we have been maybe giving out these funds over time? I have not really seen anything to actually hold on to. So it's more like instead of giving out that amount, to just maybe divert into something you believe could be more fruitful.
Yeah, one of the things that TED Fund does is that apart from research, what the TED Fund, there is a funding, is a fund that captures not just research its way. All right, let me even say that TED Fund also covers place of at conferences, that workshops and stuff like that. So TED Fund covers your funding just in case you want to travel to UK for a research funding or a research, let me say research now, or maybe for a 3 days workshop, right, on a particular subject. Right, what TED Fund does, that TED Fund funds your traveling. Why? Because they believe that your knowledge, right, you will bring it back again, to add value to the organization or the university that you are working with. Right. So TED Fund have been trying, but now they are looking for where TED Fund should be able to do much more. They are doing, but then the federal government should empower them to be able to do much more better. Right. But then there's another fear. All right. On the other hand, also is that we have had cases where people have been, we have had certain people who the government have funded to go for one research or the other, postdoc, and for fellowships, and some of them from there. I think that recently we had an update like that there are some of them that were funded and they never came back. Right? So we have cases like that too.
Okay, so recently we celebrated World Teachers Day, and out of chance I was opportune to interview some teachers, and so this complaint came that the federal government is not recruiting teachers. In other words, a shortage. People are not coming in. Some persons are retiring, and new persons are not coming in. So what would you say will be the fate of Nigeria regarding education sector? Because it's a problem. People want to learn, people want to know, and the people that are to impact are really not there. So at this point, what's the fate of education in Nigeria?
If education continues the same way, the fate of education is what we all know what the fate will most likely be. All right? Because I think on that day I told people that my parents were teachers, all right, and I'm glad they were. And I believe strongly that they are a very, very important part of the community, of the system that makes people who they are. But if we continue in this lack of investment on these amazing people, all right, we'll keep breeding. We're going to have a very, very chaotic society. Why? That I'm a doctor, I don't have time for my child. But then who is there to teach the child? Nobody is there to teach the child. Then that is where we know the importance of, when the function of something is not known, when the importance of something is not known, it's the abuse is inevitable, right? And that's where we are. Because when the political class do not really prioritize who you are, abuse is inevitable. And that is, the recruitment, have you seen anything like that? Have you seen anything like that? The federal government is recruiting teachers. You only see states recruiting, and at the longer, most of the time it's even a sham. All right, most times it's even a sham. Just hear they recruit and they don't know what happened. Those are, you just hear people saying they're applying, but how many people do you know that they have been selected? All right, and that because they know also that those government also, I feel like, do we have what it takes to also fund the payment? Because once you recruit 1,000 teachers, you should know that the vote head increases.
Exactly.
All right, their demands increases. Do we have the number of schools? Surely we have schools. I have been to a school where I served, right? I only have 2 teachers, and that's why Empower was used to cover for some of these excesses, some of these loopholes. All right, that were the teachers were not in some schools, so Empowers were the staffs were used, right, to cover up for them. And those things are not going to help us as a country. We need to really invest in the education sector, and I think one of the states that is doing very well with that, because there's a place of reward for teachers too, all right, and I think Lagos State is one that's following that template. I think Kaduna has also adopted it, and I think Oyo State too, but I think other states need to follow up on that too.
Now there is this perception of the grass being greener on the other side, and I tend to wonder, with that perception, is it really the government being the challenge, or persons just want to really travel out on their own? Because at some point it's more like relaying the belief is just too much on the government. I tend to wonder, is it more like a personal mindset, a perception where persons will just want to travel out?
The grass is greener, yes. It could be greener better on this side, on the other side. There are certain people who sees the green side, the grass that is greener. So people have seen it on this side and they have stayed. All right, but there are certain people that they believe strongly that on the other side, we have seen people who thought that the grass is greener on the other side, and when they got to the other side, they realized that where they were was even green in the first place, but because their eyes were not open to seeing that. All right, so I know we come to a time that it is easier. The best people or the best category of people to blame in this my generation is government. It is easy for us to do that.
Why do you think so? Because
naturally, men do not like to take responsibility for their actions. We are not people that like to take. It's because it is easier to transfer the blame. It is easier for you to transfer the responsibility to somebody else. So that's why and the best one that cannot defend itself is government. Why? Because you know that everybody will like to say, and it's true, and it's true, and it's true. Because there is already a fault with government. Government has its fault by default. So even the one that is not their business also, all right, is transferred to them. But then, and for me, I was telling to some people that the day we get to a point where everyone are gainfully employed, all right, you will see that there will be a reduction of certain things. The crime rate and all these things will also find its places. So are people traveling out? Yes, people travel for very many reasons. Tourism, for some don't even have any business with government, but they just want to go. Some want to relocate, and as I talked about the Abraham Maslow theory of needs, that these are the things that engineers the motivation to want to leave the country, not necessarily because of government. All right, some can say yes, some can say it's government, insecurity, low pay, yes. But focusing on the education sector, we have come to a point as at now, all right, is that there are certain people that are being drafted into lecturing, although they were never appointed for such in the beginning. For instance, let me say the person was appointed to be a desk officer initially, all right, but now because of the mass exodus, you have a master's, Abi? He said, yes, I have a master's in dental technology. Oh, wow. Then they try to bring the person into lecturing. Do you know what you are doing for them? You thought you are helping them to live better, but you are giving them more chances or more opportunity also to go, because once the pay increases now, So then I think I have more money now to invest in my living the country. Although temporarily you are solving a problem, but they must have a permanent solution to what we have.
Because the thing is that I really tend to wonder, you can't really fully satisfy any human being. Because when you talk about poor salaries, oh come on now, I mean, every country have issues with salaries everywhere. I mean, money is not just enough for just anybody. And then the issue of insecurity. Talking about Israel recently encountered serious issues, so insecurity is really everywhere. Talking about poor working conditions, there is not a country in this world that has the best working condition anywhere. So sometimes when I tend to just pull out these challenges people tend to actually talk about, I tend to wonder, is it really a challenge, or we're just trying to just go about certain things and then give ourselves more reasons why we should actually live? And it turns out being just a personal perception. And I tend to wonder just how much percent of persons do you think actually just live because they want to live, and just how much actually have so sort of bias, you know, as regarding the government and how Nigeria tends to run issues as this. I mean, what exactly is the percentage? So we won't actually just throw the blame or lay the blame entirely on the government. Okay, I think the percentage is not we have to over 200 million people, all right? For the academia, virtually, statistically, they said about 23,000 staff of the academia, non-academic or academics, leave the shores of the country every year. 23,000. Let me even say, according to what statistics, Nigeria is still low. The people that the number of people who leave the country from Nigeria is way low to other countries. To let you know that the issue of people leaving is not only peculiar to us. All right, the other Indian, so it's a country that you see that people also leave their country. But the difference between them and us is the fact that we are a people that we are proud. We are very proud people. Number two is that when we get to a place, we want everybody to know that we are here. All right, that's the Nigerian energy. All right, but I mean, not that because we are not very discreet people. And as I said, that the issue of leaving the shores, it has been defined, quote and unquote, into everybody's ideology to mean something like success. All right, such that once you upload your story on Facebook, that welcome Chicago. Yeah, I mean, my mom who just checked your page, just stumbled on your picture, just say Now to what? It's like, I think you need to now get serious about this. But then nobody knows. There are different approaches that we know the issue of illegal migration, right? And that's why USA is even having issue about that. They're trying to talk about policies around this thing. So there are people that are coming in a very illegal way, all right? But then because of this desperation, all right, people are trying to just look for every possible means to live. But then some of them will bank on saying it is government fault. But then every country have their challenge. Every country, but the way we handle ours is what really even matters. According to the Nigerian Youth Index, what the youth, which is the most valuable population of this country, is what are they looking for? They're talking about we need a good working environment. Once you can't do that, once there is power, do you know that power in itself will create jobs? We don't have that yet. Imagine when we won't fix that, there are certain people that because of power, they will likely stay. There's certain people like that once there is power, when there is power, because the economy is governed by people too. Our population is an economy, so when there is power, the job is available for some people. Some people like say they don't want to leave. Those that are leaving are saying, you know what, I want to just go and do one or two things, to go and study. Some will still come back. Many are going there to study and to come back. Why? Because the issue of our ASU strikes, I must say, it even demotivates people to want to study. 2019, in 2013, I'm not sure there's any year that goes by that we don't have one. And now the same child who has been in the house, maybe selling one or two things for the mom, just wake up one morning, school resumes, say timetable of exam is out, the person just come and be ready for exam. How do you allow the person to move from market to class again? So the person that, you know what, I think I can, and that break in those calendars also affects the motivation of the student to want to even read. All right, and then, like, you know what, mommy, I don't think I can deal with this. So mom said, you know what, let's go for a place where the academic calendar is unbreakable. That in 12 months you are done, in 18 months you are done, and that is what some people are looking at. Some people are not looking at. So when people are picking institutions now, people are not picking them because of the school fees. Hey, the school fees is high. No. Do they have a very stable calendar?
certain parents will choose that institution because of a stable calendar and not because their school visit time.
I tend to, sorry Kareen, I tend to wonder if as a whole these challenges is being sorted out. All of them at the same time is being sorted out. Do you think those that are attempting to japa in code would actually want to come back?
I submit to you that people will even come back.
They wouldn't?
I submit to you, yeah, people would surely come back.
Would?
Yeah, people will surely come back. Because, and this I say with all sense of conviction, all sense of belief, that, you know, there's this Yoruba that said, I would have said it in Yoruba, but I know, I'm trying to say, I don't know if I can say it in Yoruba.
Yeah, you
can say the Ajoli Dabile. No matter where you say you get to, there's no place like home, regardless. Right? So there's a longing that attached you to home, and you cannot say you want to forget your source. And that's why there's some people who, and we are not born here, that they'll keep asking their parents questions. Where am I from? Because there's a longing in us to want to know where we come from. So when we have our problem fixed, there are certain people, there are many people that will surely come back and say, you know what, let's go home and let's go build our country.
Okay, so in your last word, because I guess time is out of hand, so what
time.
would be your word of encouragement to those youngsters who have been demotivated by the current challenges, especially in the education sector in Nigeria?
Demotivation. I think my final words would be to them is that they must look inward, you know, to their very self. They must look into self and make decisions not because of the wave that is going on. They must make decisions on the strength of purpose. They must make decisions on the strength of what they want to become. Right? Their decisions should not be hinged on decisions of somebody else. Their decisions should be made, should be based on who they want to become, and should be majorly also on the strength of humanity and building a country like Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. K. We hope to see you next time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right, viewers, you heard it all. Your decision should be based on you, and not because your friend is going living for abroad and then you just want to just join the trade of people actually living the country. It should be on the basis of what you want to be tomorrow. All right, at this point, calling the wrap on here from our studio in Ondo City, banding over to Lagos. We will have so much more for you. I remain Ezekiel Ogar.
And thanks for joining us today. I'm Kareen Edet.